Kansas Governor Laura Kelly has 2 more years left in her term. Voters won't pick her replacement for about 22 months or so, but already a familiar face is throwing his hat in the ring. Republican Secretary of State Scott Schwab announced this past week he'd like the job. He spent more than 2 decades in state government, once serving as Speaker pro tem in the Kansas House before his current gig. Schwab says there's no time like the present to get into the race.
I know there's people have fatigue from the 2026 presidential race, and I share that emotion, but the runway doesn't get any shorter from here on out. I believe in the time of competition, social media, and a lot of noise, you have to seize on your opportunities as they come.
In the past, Schwab has broken rank with far-right conservatives who falsely claimed there was fraud in the 2020 presidential election. Schwab says he's committed to his job as Secretary of State as he runs for governor. Our roundtable of journalists is here to discuss these new developments and the start of the Kansas session. Please welcome back Brian Ellison, host contributor with KCUR, and Pilar Pedraza, senior political reporter for KAKE News. All right, Pilar, you broke the Scott Schwab story earlier this week. What's the thinking behind getting into this race first?
Well, it's pretty much like you said, just trying to break through all of the noise out there. I mean, there's just so much going on, and he's trying to reach voters. He's got a wide open field right now. There's nobody else talking about the governor's race at this point, but there's lots of other things going on. You've got what's going on in D.C. Voters are paying attention to that. And then, of course, it's just daily life, social media, all those things he's got to break through. And, of course, it also gives him a leg up when it comes to fundraising.
Right, and like you said, he has to rise above the fray a little bit here.
Well, that's right. Everyone knows, for example, that Senate President Ty Masterson is interested in this race. He made a point this week of saying that he's not going to talk about that right now. He's focused on the legislative session. But what that means is that for the next several months, he's going to be in the headlines. He's going to be calling shots about the legislative agenda and the direction of Kansas. Other candidates, if they want to be playing on that field, have to make bold announcements. I do think this is still very early, and I think we should pay attention to this trend that there is no season that is not an election season.
Right. It's just perpetual, like all the time now. Let's talk about the legislative session. Let us focus on it for a little bit. We just heard from Leader Woodard and Speaker Hawkins, who have their own priorities, of course, but at least, Pilar, there's talk of bipartisanship heading into the session, though there always seems to be.
Well, at this point in the game, yes, there's always a lot of talk of bipartisanship. And let's be honest, in Kansas politics, there is a lot of bipartisanship. Between 85 and 95% of votes are bipartisan in the Kansas State House. That is not unusual. The thing is what we hear about are the controversial bills that don't get bipartisan support. Those are the ones that make the headlines. But the vast majority actually are very much across the board, just kind of getting the job of governing done.
Yeah, you're right. And we talk about just looking at the agendas that are going to be coming on. It's going to be very interesting to see where the Venn diagram is, because as you said, there's a lot of bipartisanship. This is happening in the coming days, by the way. Democrats and Republicans are going to spell out what they want to do. What do you anticipate, Brian, will be the first real battle in Topeka?
Well, I think it's going to be about money, Cody, and I think it's going to be both on the income side and on the expenses side. On the revenue side, there's going to be a huge conversation in Topeka this year about property taxes. It's top of the list for Republicans. Laura Kelly has urged the legislature to exercise caution in reducing property taxes because of the impact that could have on local or county level operations, but even some Democrats have said that it's a priority for them. So I think you might see some bipartisan cooperation on that, among other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Speaker Hawkins also said he wanted more time to work on the budget. You talk about money. So they're coming out with their own right out of the gate, Pilar. How do we see that playing out?
I think it's going to make a huge difference, because the fact of the matter is the governor historically has rolled out their budget, and then the lawmakers go in and they start ripping it to pieces and they do what they're going to do. Most of it, probably about 70%, ends up being the same. It's kind of pro forma. It's little details here and there that they differ on, and what the legislature ends up sitting in the omnibus is generally its own bill anyway, regardless of what the governor has introduced. So I think, we've got Republican leadership bringing out their version. The governor's still going to bring out her version. I think what we're going to see is probably something in the middle.
All right, we'll see what happens. Brian, while we have you, I want to ask you a Missouri question. Of course, we have Lee Summit Republican John Patterson, who we've profiled here on the program, quashed a challenge for a House Speaker, kind of changing lanes a little bit on his opinion about Amendment 3 and if the General Assembly would go for further abortion restrictions.
Yeah, well, let's note for a moment the historic nature of John Patterson's election as Speaker, first Asian American to hold that office in Missouri. But as for his views on Amendment 3, just shortly after the election, he said in a Chamber of Commerce gathering that he would respect the will of voters. Then he had to sort of back away as he was experiencing a challenge from the conservative side for the Speaker's office, saying that he would consider options. Now he has sort of taken a middle position, saying they will respect the will of the voters, but that there's room for defining some of the terms. So maybe we'll see some changes there.
And we'll see what those definitions are maybe tweaked into as the session progresses. Brian Ellison, Pilar Pedraza, thank you so much. KMBC 9 News and Heart of the Matter will keep you posted on the new sessions, tracking your tax dollars and the decisions that affect your life. It's all on air and online at KMBC.com.